The following is presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Arizona. Live the life you want.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So it is about the client assistance program, but it really ends up being about a lot more. So as you know, this is now the time that the United States government sets and passes the budget for next year. And so there's a lot of conversations, all kinds of conversations happening about what that means in all different kinds of areas. I want to talk specifically about what we're looking at when it comes to vocational rehabilitation and our services that provide us the training and resources that we need to go to work, right? Because that's what we want. We want to work, support our communities and our families and ourselves, and be equal members of society. So I want to talk a little bit about where we are at this point, what's potentially in front of us, and some things that we can start to do about it. So right now we have the president's budget, we have the proposed Senate budget, and we need to still hear from the House on what their budget proposal looks like. So for vocational rehabilitation, in 2024, we did not receive a cost of living. It was kind of flatly funded. In 2025, we got the cost of living increase for 2024 and 2025. So the president put forward, the executive budget, and that is flatlining the vocational rehabilitation program back to the 2024 range. So we do lose some funding there. It's, not what we want, but it could be worse, right? But the scary thing about that budget is that it zeroes out the funding for the client assistance program. The client assistance program is, by law, the organization that oversees the way that funding happens for vocational rehabilitation clients, making sure that we have access to correctly facilitated rehabilitation plans based on the law. So when you zero out that funding, the idea is that, who's going to do the oversight? But it's a little bit more complicated than that. So according to the law, without a client assistance program, federal funds cannot be used to pay for vocational rehabilitation. So without a CAP program, you cannot spend federal money on voc rehab. There is some language in the president's budget that says states can use the money that they have for voc rehab to fund the CAP program if they need to. But deeper down in the statute, in the law, it states that the federal funding for CAP cannot be the federal funding for voc rehab because it's supposed to be overseeing that funding. So there is a catch-22. Does that make sense? I know it's this part's kind of complicated. So we got funding in the president's budget to continue voc rehab at 2024 levels, which is this is less than, removes the cost of living. And it does not provide separate funding for the CAP program, but it says we can use voc rehab money for the CAP program. But the law for voc rehab says you can't use that money to fund the program, to that CAP program, if it's supposed to be overseeing that money. So we have a catch-22 in this process that has the strong potential, unless something happens, that eliminates all federal funds for the vocational rehabilitation program. So that means we'd only be, Arizona gets about 70, what is it? Like $80 million for the vocational rehabilitation program, and the Arizona legislature only gives like $3 million of it. So think we'd be dropping from like $80 million to $3 million for everybody. That would be devastating. But this is not done. The government, this has just started, right? So that's the president's budget. The Senate has come through and made their budget, and it's bipartisan and really, really supported by almost unanimous, right? So we feel really, the Senate is really behind their budget. Their budget funds the vocational rehabilitation program, including the cost of living and a cost of living for 2026, and funds the CAP program. So we look great in the Senate budget for services. The House budget has not come out, and they are a little bit more concerned about cutting spending, and they have not come out of like really loving the Senate's budget. They want to cut back more. So our job is to educate our our lawmakers, and the executive branch about how important voc rehab is. So the CAP program, the Client Assistance Program, only costs $13 million for the whole country. That's just a teeny little drop in what we're talking about with the budget, right? For $13 million, all states could be funded and we can keep getting blind people to work. So what we'd like to do is start to develop some stories, some personal stories that tell the story of how much vocational rehabilitation programs have helped us. And we want to put together in those stories just some really simple language that says, without the CAP program, we can't have a vocational rehabilitation program. For $13 million for the whole nation, we'll continue to get blind people working. So what's going to be coming your way fairly soon is kind of some video and writing storytelling templates so we can write our story. Hi, my name's Amy Porterfield, and I was a client of vocational rehabilitation. And through vocational rehabilitation program, I received access technology and training, and I got my college degree, and I was able to get a job at that time as a counselor and raise my child and pay taxes. And these programs help people like me go to work. And then a little lane that says something like, the Client Assistance Program is mandated to allow for federal funding to be spent for vocational rehabilitation program for $13 million for the country. These programs can continue. Please remember to fund the CAP program. So I wanted to kind of explain that to everybody at first, so when we start getting these little templates coming out, you know what they are and what it's for. So the National Association of Blind Rehabilitation Professionals is working with the policy and advocacy team with the NFB to develop these templates, and we're going to be doing this across the country. So start thinking about your story and what Voc Rehab has done for you, or what it will do for you, and how important that is for you to live that life that you want. It's a really small ask, and it's a really technical little issue, and it's the kind of thing that can slip through the cracks if we don't do a good job just educating and saying, this is a really tiny thing that really will spend the money they want on the right things to get us to work. So I can take questions, because I know it's kind of a technical issue. Any questions, or did that make sense? If that made sense to you, that's amazing. I'm really proud of myself, because it took me a while to understand it. So, well, then that's all I have.
Can I just ask Amy, like,
Yeah.
just to kind of ease the mind of some of our members, right now, can you give us an update just to clarify, like, where it is right now in process? I think you were mentioning there's 2 separate bills making its way through.
So just like Senator Kavanaugh said, there's 2 chambers in the federal Congress as well. So the Senate is going to make a budget. They have made a budget, and we really like that budget. And the House is going to make a budget, and they have to reconcile those 2 budgets, and then the president's going to need to sign it. So they're going to consider what the president's budget says and how it aligns with what the different sides of the House want, and they're going to come together with a budget that everyone likes. And there's lots of really, really big things in that budget that you see on CNN. No one's talking about a $13 million CAP program, right? No one's even thinking about it. So that's why we're trying to connect with people that know us, that we know, our own Congress people and throughout the country, just so they can say, look, this is a really technical little issue, and this would keep us getting to work. So there's a long, long way to go. And the fact that the Senate has remembered it and put us and funded it nicely is a really great thing. And we're continuing, like the Jesse Shirek and the policy and advocacy team at the NFB, they've been meeting with different people that are in the policy making and just saying, hey, this is a little something that people don't really know about. Can we choose? We want to make sure we remember it. We know that the executive branch wants to continue to have vocational rehabilitation services. Their intent was to keep it going and fund cap. We just need to make sure that we close those little loopholes and educate people. We feel like this is going to be fine, but we need to do our part and educate, especially our congressmen in the House, because that's really important for them to understand that this little tiny bit of money that no one's even thinking about will help us to stand and work.
For more information about the National Federation of the Blind of Arizona, visit us at az.nfb.org or on our Facebook page at facebook.com/blindarizona.